Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more rifle testing, and today we've got a rifle that we haven't tested on the channel in a good long while, and to be fair, I don't think I've brought it out of the safe in probably a year or more now, so it's been a good while for me as well. But I recently picked up some new ammo when it was on sale that I've never run through it, and I don't think I've ever run this grain weight of bullet through it either, so I'm definitely curious to see what it can do. But as for the rifle we've got today, I brought out my Remington Woodsmaster Model 750 Carbine Semi-Auto 308. This rifle's been with me kind of all over the place. Bunch of deer, bunch of pigs, a ram, a couple black bears, all of which have been taken with this rifle. And since it is a carbine, it's got an 18.5-inch barrel on it. It's a very nice compact setup. Up on top is a loophole VX1 3-9x40. Just a great all-around gun. And generally this thing is pretty accurate with most rounds, but it definitely has its few favorites. So we'll see what today's ammo can actually do for us through it. But as for the ammo we're going to run, I picked up some of the Herter's big game 308 loads when they were on sale the other day. I think this box was $22, $23, something like that. They're typically up around the 28 mark or so, but it's a 308, 180 grain soft point moving at 2620 feet per second. Now, if you don't know, Herter's is just the in-house brand name for Bass Pro and Cabela's, but it's all produced by Winchester. So these are essentially a Winchester Super X, like white box loading, and I doubt we're going to see that 2620 out of our 18.5-inch barrel. But I don't know if I've ever run a 180 grain through this rifle, so we'll see what it can give us. But as for today's test, everything is set up the same as we usually do it. I've got the target at 100 yards, as well as the chronograph so we can get our velocity. We're going to shoot 3 groups, 3 shots each, and that should give us a pretty decent idea of what these are capable of through my rifle here on average. And quick side note, I am going to be using today's testing to also test a few different magazines I have for this rifle. Some of them I know work well, others I think have a little bit of a jam up problem, especially with these rifles. They're a little bit finicky sometimes. So if anybody notices a jam or a failure to cycle properly in the actual clips of me shooting, it's fine. Nothing wrong with the rifle or the ammo. I'm just testing magazines as well throughout today's groups. But enough talking, let's get you guys a view of that target. We'll shoot our groups and I'll let the rifle cool down between each group as well, so we can try and keep heat out of this equation. But let's take our shots and see how the Herter's 180 grainers can do through this 750 carbine. Alright, so let's take a quick peek through our velocities here real quick before we go look at our target. The box claim was 2620. However, just like I suspected, we were not going to see that claim. We have an 18.5-inch barrel with a 180 grain bullet. 2400, maybe high 2300s is what I thought, and I think we were right about there. So for a high, we had 2421. For a low, we had 2353. That gave us an average of 2394. with an extreme spread of 68 and a standard deviation of 25. So right at 2400, that's 226 feet per second under their claim. That absolutely does make sense. And of course, here are some numbers so you can see what kind of energy we're pushing downrange with 180 grain 308 at 2394. That's still plenty enough to take a deer with it or something, no doubt about it. So overall, makes sense for a velocity, but let's look at our target and see how accurate they were. Alright, so now let's take a peek here at our target and see what we actually got for accuracy. And right off the bat, I would call it pretty average, to say the least. It's definitely nothing super precision, and I definitely know that rifle can get better, that's for sure. So far, from that particular rifle, some Hornady Custom 165 grainers have been by far the best, but this is still absolutely usable for a deer hunt, or whatever the case would be. Obviously, this is not the round that rifle's zeroed with, which is why we were hanging them just a touch to to the right, but we'll go through and see what we got for groups. Our first group was this guy all the way over here on the right. We had two that were pretty close and one that strung up just a little bit high. That one may have been me, but I felt good about all the trigger pulls today, so I don't really know for certain, but we'll measure it and see what it gave us. And that one gave us 2.44 inches. So definitely nothing spectacular there, but we'll move up to our second group, which was this guy up here at the very top. I definitely think we condensed it down a little bit there, got a little bit better. And sure enough, it gave us a 1.78 inch spread. Still nothing that I would call super precision necessarily, but let's move to the bottom group down here, which was definitely our best group of the day. And that's a little bit more like what I was expecting to see from these rounds through this particular rifle. And if anybody noticed me kind of jump up really quick on the first shot of this third group, that's because a hot piece of brass had rolled out from underneath of my shooting rest and really got my elbow. 'Cause let me tell you, that was some of the hottest brass I've ever touched, and it had sat there for a few minutes too from the last group, but we'll measure it and see what it gave us. And that's a little more like it, 1.08. So pretty much right at that MOA mark for an average little carbine length deer gun like that 308 is. That right there, 1 inch at 100 yards is more than usable to get the job done. Have I seen a touch better? Yes, but if we can consistently get 1 or just over 1 inch groups with these basic 180 grain soft points that definitely are not fancy, they are not super expensive or anything like that, that's plenty good enough. Across the board today, I would say it's pretty average. If it's what I had, yeah, I would absolutely hunt with it. But am I going to switch to these over my typical 165 Hornadies? No, probably not. But at least that last group is right about where I wanted to be, right at 1 inch. So definitely not too bad for accuracy if we're keeping them right around that 1 inch group mark at 100 yards. All right, y'all. Well, what did you think about those results right there? Those first two groups were okay, very much so mediocre. That last group is pretty much right where I would expect it to be, right about that 1 inch mark. And for my purposes with that rifle, that's plenty good enough. There's no deer that's ever going to survive that right there. Out to 100 yards, if you can hit a 1 inch square with it, you're going to be just fine. And I kind of accomplished the mission as well. Made sure that rifle was still zeroed in, which it should have been perfectly fine, even though these are not the loads my rifle is zeroed with. And I figured out that I've got one bad magazine out of the group here. The other two seem to be perfectly fine. So now I've got that sorted as well. Either way, this is probably about what I expected to see. If I had to put a number out coming into it, I was thinking 1.3, 1.4 inches was probably going to be about the average. And we weren't too far off from that. If we can average 1 inch or just a little bit over, I think that's reasonable, all things considered, for the setup and the ammo. But leave all your thoughts down below. Is that about what you expected to see? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you tested any of these Herters, 180 grain 308s? And if so, what kind of results have you seen? Is this a combo that you would actually hunt with? Or would you still want to see it a little more accurate than that? And what other loads might you want to see us run through this 750 carbine 308? Let me know all that down below. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, we have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All the information will be in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.